I often come across small business owners. They think, okay, I'm going to spend $10,000 on advertising, and they have no idea if they actually make money from that $10,000. They
Mhm.
think of it as just kind of an overhead expense that they, it's kind of like that movie, if you Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come.
Just something.
Uh,
This is something you just do. If you have a business, this is something you just do.
and that's where you shouldn't be looking at marketing that way.
Yeah.
This is where you can definitely use the numbers in your business. Keep track of your sales results. Know what's the cost of getting a new lead into your business? What's your conversion rate, taking that lead and turning them into a paying customer? If you know those numbers, well, this is where you can advertise and you can directly trace the cost of your advertising to the return you get. And theoretically, if you're making money off your marketing and you can prove it that way.
Hi, and welcome to the Entrepreneur Freedom Solutions Show. I'm Eric Asbeck, and today we have Brian Ludwig. Brian is a financial professional, and we're going to talk about knowing the numbers so you can build and sell your business. And he'll be able to explain a lot more about what that means. So, hey, Brian, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me on your show, Eric.
You're, you bet. It's good to have you. And this is one you just need to know. So let's jump in. Tell me about why knowing your numbers is so important.
I find it quite often, like I work with hundreds of businesses every year, and I'm also like a cross-border tax accountant, so I do a lot of compliance tax related work.
You're located in Canada, but you also work with folks in the US,
Yes,
right?
I do both Canada and US taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And I find a lot of small business owners, they bring me their paperwork 3 months after the year end, and often they haven't looked at their work at all because they're bringing everything in big shoe boxes or banker boxes. And often that's where I'll uncover things that may have gone wrong during the year, but they didn't fully realize it. And by the time I tell them, it's too late. Damage is already done. And this is where I encourage business owners, they should be looking at their bookkeeping or their financial documents as an asset to their business. Don't just think of it as a compliance cost that they have to pay at the end of the year, but use it as an asset which they can use to generate more income for their business. And there are quite a few areas in their business that they can apply, keep good track of monitoring where their progress is and to make good decisions, especially in the areas of marketing.
Mm-hmm. So now that begs the question to tell me, could you give us an example or two of where people may not actually have it occurred to them that's really valuable to know what their numbers are?
Yeah, like this is going back a few years, but I had a farm client, and that's where they were the traditional family farm grain operation. They had some livestock like bison in this case, and this is where they were on the verge of having all their loans called in by the bank.
Mm.
And that's where I went in and we looked at their numbers and saw where their operation was. And that's where it became obvious, okay, you have this herd of 15 bison that you're looking after. And he bought a brand new tractor just to feed those bison. That was $100,000 tractor.
Mm.
And I'm thinking, well, look at your numbers here. You're only making $15,000 a year gross from this bison, but you have $100,000 tractor that you're paying for. And that still doesn't include all the feed costs and all the other related costs for looking
Sure.
after those bison. So I kind of asked them, well, yeah, let's look at your numbers and see what's actually making you money on your farm. Well, it was obvious it was the grain part of the farm was making money, and it was the bison part that was draining all the money and taking all those profits away.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where he I guess he loved his bison. He didn't want to get rid of them, but he
Sure.
did get rid of them. and sold the tractor and focused on the grain. Year
Just
later,
practical, like just being faced with the practical reality of things.
yeah,
You sometimes you have to make some tougher decisions that it's the when you look at the lay of the land pragmatically like that,
yeah,
it's a you have to accept that certain things need to be done. It's a business.
yeah. And that, like, he wasn't happy. He didn't want to make it, but a year later, the bank was happy with him, which was quite important for him.
Yeah,
And he was actually making money. He
yeah,
was actually happier then.
yeah,
But that's where you just have to be prepared to make changes. And if you know your numbers ahead of time, it's a lot easier justifying making those changes and knowing exactly what needs to be changed.
yeah, yeah. Um, well, that kind of makes me wonder, like, what are some kind of common myths about all this whole thing with numbers, and how would you debunk them?
Yeah, that's where probably one common myth is all you need to know is just what's in your bank account. If you have money in your bank account, you're in good shape. And unfortunately, that can be far from the truth because when it comes to cash flow, yes, having a profitable business definitely helps your cash flow. But I've seen a lot of other cases where the money in the bank account has nothing to do with profits. They may have just been selling off $100,000 of inventory last year.
Mm,
And basically, all that means is you just sold off inventory. You may not have made any money. You could have had losses. You're just draining your assets out of your business in the long term. Or another common example is a lot of people will start relying on credit cards and lines of credits.
yeah,
And that's why they have money in the bank account. But until that last dollar of line of credit is used up, all of a sudden they're in a cash flow crunch.
right.
So yeah, this is where there's a lot more to cash flow than just looking at what's in your bank account on a particular day.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. Um, well, you'd. I'm kind of I'm kind of wondering, because we're digging into this, how how'd you get to this? How did you get, what brought you to here today?
Well, this is where 35 years ago, back in the dark ages before the internet, I was much like most business owners. I was starting up my own business from scratch. I was still in university, and it wasn't an accounting business or a finance business. I was actually an agrologist, agriculture.
Mm,
Um, and I basically did what most business owners usually do. I just hired an accountant and just trusted they were going to make all the good decisions for me. Well, that's where I did the same thing. I just took my books in. I did the bookkeeping, but I did the bookkeeping 3 months after my year end.
mm,
Uh, and that's where I knew I had losses. But that's where I found out my accountant gave me a lot of bad advice, and he gave me a massive tax bill I had to pay.
mm,
Um, and that's when I started realizing I have to take more responsibility, understanding my own numbers and
yeah,
being on top of things. I just took it one extreme to the extreme where I actually started providing advice to my neighbors and colleagues, and next thing no, I became a professional accountant.
yeah, yeah. But from the viewpoint of somebody who'd been there,
Yes,
and it's like, this is why we're doing this.
yeah,
So I can
you
see how
want
that leads
to.
to why you're saying you really need to know what's going on with those numbers. Um,
Yeah, the more you understand what's going on, the better you can make decisions throughout the year.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So you talked about that one farmer, but is there do you have another example of someone that you've helped that could help our listeners understand a little bit more about how it makes a difference, how you can help make a difference?
Yeah, another key area is like the whole area of marketing. that's where I often come across small business owners. They think, okay, I'm going to spend $10,000 on advertising, and they have no idea if they actually make money from that $10,000. They
Mhm.
think of it as just kind of an overhead expense that they, it's kind of like that movie, if you Field of Dreams, if you build it, they will come.
Just something.
Uh,
This is something you just do. If you have a business, this is something you just do.
and that's where you shouldn't be looking at marketing that way.
Yeah.
This is where you can definitely use the numbers in your business. Keep track of your sales results. Know what's the cost of getting a new lead into your business? What's your conversion rate, taking that lead and turning them into a paying customer? If you know those numbers, well, this is where you can advertise and you can directly trace the cost of your advertising to the return you get. And theoretically, if you're making money off your marketing and you can prove it that way, what should your marketing budget be? Well, technically, as long as you're making money off your marketing, you should be marketing as much as you can.
Hmm.
But if you have the mentality where I'm just going to give $10,000 to this advertising agent and I'll just let him do whatever he wants to do, and that's just my expense. Yeah, you can go broke very quickly doing that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's sort of like we're losing money, but we're going to make it up on volume, is the old joke,
Yeah,
right? Uh,
yeah. And then another key area is for business owners who are looking at eventually selling their business.
mhm.
That's often a key goal for many business owners is, oh yeah, when I get to my retirement age, this is going to be my retirement, selling the business.
Yes.
And that's where a lot of business owners get hit with a nasty surprise. People don't want to pay them as much as they think their business is worth. And this is again where knowing your numbers becomes very critical to get that business value up so you can get as much as you can for your business. Uh,
So you can demonstrate that the money that the expenses going in lead to a profitable result coming out, and you can kind of value the business at based on what it's proven. You've proven that it can generate.
yeah, yeah,
I mean,
and there's
that's how I hear it. I don't know if I
yeah,
heard if that was my own words. What do you think?
yeah, no, that's where there's definitely some things you need to consider. The profitability of the business. And this is where if you can make your business more profitable, legitimately, that's going to command a higher premium for your business.
Mhm.
And what I mean by
And that and just like I for myself at least, the way I've had to keep reminding myself is that means that the revenues that I'm getting are more than my expenses, and hopefully I have a way of growing my business so that my expenses don't grow as fast. So the more revenue I make, my profit gets bigger.
yes, yeah, you definitely need to account for that. And the other one of the biggest questions I always ask, like when I get business clients who are looking at buying a business, the first thing I ask them to look at when they get these prorated financial statements for the last 3 years, the first question I get them to ask the seller is, okay, where's the management salaries in these statements? Are they included or not?
Mhm.
So many times that I've seen that's one trick sellers will try to use to inflate the profitability of their business is by not paying themselves.
Right.
And
Or even, I mean, you sort of, I've known people that have businesses and they think they kind of, even though they know they need money to live, they kind of don't think in those terms necessarily. You know, it's like, okay, the business is kind of throwing off some money, and I forget that, you know, I want to not only be paying myself and living a comfortable lifestyle, but I want to be tucking some money away and all those sort of things. And they kind of don't think in those terms necessarily. It's more like they're thinking just having the business generate, getting customers.
yeah, and this is where you have to ask yourself, well, are you in this business to make money or like you should be paying yourself a salary for your time or the equivalent of a salary. And that
Mhm.
should be accounted for because if a potential buyer came along, Like, for example, I just had a recent client who was looking at buying a business, and we're looking at the statements, and it was making $5,000, $10,000 a year, which wasn't too much.
Hmm.
But then when I got him to ask that question, that's where he never had any salaries for himself. So
Yeah.
this is where, okay, if I'm assuming if you're working full time at this, you want to make 40,000 a year. Technically, this business is losing 30,000 a year.
Yeah.
And then he was asking for like $400,000 for this business.
Right.
I'm thinking, well, the other thing you have to look at is if you're investing $400,000, you want to get a return on that money,
Right.
like maybe a 10% return. So right away, okay, you're missing $40,000 in salaries. You don't have the return of $40,000. Like, this business isn't really worth this $400,000 price tag.
Yeah.
And this is
No matter
where,
how much you love it.
yes, that's where for a seller, they should be looking at, okay, we should get our sales up, get our profitability up, look at their expenses. They should be looking at maximizing the profit potential of their business long before they intend to sell it.
Yeah.
And the more they can do
Hopefully
that,
with a method that's fairly simple for them to
yeah,
do. I mean, because I know people glaze over when they think about um, quote unquote accounting. I mean, it's like it's a thing, but it's also this sort of image that people have.
yeah, well, that's where isn't that not necessarily, you can always get someone to help you with the actual details or mechanics. But
Hmm.
if you can understand the numbers, like, for example, a lot of people focus on total revenue for their business. And I look at total revenue saying, well, that's nice. Your revenue is going up. But I like to look at what's called gross profit. Basically, it's your total revenue minus all your direct costs of providing your product or service.
Hmm.
Like, if you're a retail store, that would be the cost of your inventory. If you're a service business, it's the cost of delivering your service.
Right.
And
So, like,
it's that,
if you were a coach, you'd probably have like um, your email provider and your different systems and stuff like that. Maybe you'd have some advertising expenses and those sort of things, but um, yeah, but like, I guess there's like, you just have to kind of look at what it is that for your particular business, what are those kind of recurring expenses that you got to pay up, and then of course maybe you're in a coaching program or something like that, or you're buying different sort of um, products that will help you, and you kind of maybe lose sight of the fact that are those returning, are you able to cover the cost of all those sort of things that seem like they would be helpful, and are they? I guess I'm just kind of thinking in terms of like what that expense nut looks like.
yeah, essentially that gross profit number, that tells you what your actual profit is to your business to help cover all of the rest of your overhead costs, including your salary and
Hmm.
your return on investment. And I've seen people where they put emphasis on the wrong products that bring in very little true gross profit. Brings in a lot of dollars because they're high dollar amounts, but when they take away all their costs of making that sale, there's not much left over for profit for themselves. Whereas they get some other products that they do make a lot of money at,
Yeah.
on for gross profit. So again, just by understanding your numbers, this is where you can get an idea of what's truly bringing in the profits into your business. And then that ties directly into marketing.
Yeah.
By knowing your gross profit, it starts giving an idea of how much money can you spend on marketing on that product.
Sure.
But
And I guess also, guys, kind of in the context of doing what you love, there's like that kind of desire that people have, but you can sort of say, well, do I really love delivering this thing that's generating a lot of profit, or this thing that's not? Like, how am I emotionally tied to these things? And
yes,
what's the pragmatics? Like, how can I bring things in line so that I'm emotionally and financially rewarded for what I'm doing. It's like kind of a complex thought, but I'm just kind of mindful of how it can be, you know, that there's some things you like to do more than others.
Well, I say, yeah, essentially, it kind of gives you that extra clarity that you need to know exactly what what is really making you money.
Yeah,
Whereas if you don't do this exercise, well, you can guess, but just really never know, are you making the right decision?
yeah, yeah.
For example, I was involved with a
Or sort
tax
of
franchise.
financially. So maybe it's rewarding to do something, but like in terms of like you like doing it, but like the
Yeah.
bison, is it
Yeah.
is it really keeping keeping your keeping your land and putting food on the table or not?
Yes, it's yeah, no, it can lead to some eye-opening discussions for your business
Yeah.
by looking at your numbers.
So we've kind of touched on it, but are there any? So I'll say, you know, what are the what are roadblocks that people should watch out for? And you know, kind of we've talked about some, but you know, probably there's a little bit more to add to that.
Well, one other big factor, partially tied into your numbers, but if you're looking at building up the value of your business, you need to look at building up your business so it's not dependent on you as a business owner for everything.
Mm,
Like I've seen so many businesses where they you take the owner out of the equation and there is no business. And if that's the case, why would anyone pay you for that business? Basically, like service type businesses are a big risk for this. A lot of times your clients are your best friends for decades.
right,
Well, if you disappear or shut your doors or sell it to someone else, are they going to go to that new stranger, or are they going to just look for someone else they know better?
right,
And this is where you need to get systems in place in your business so that it can work on its own. The more you can automate your business, get not be so reliant on your own time, but it's basically you could walk away for a month and you know the business will keep on running properly.
right.
That gives you real value when it comes time to selling the business and paying for your retirement.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, you know, like if you run programs, for example, if you're the only one that can run them, then when time comes to sell, then how's that work? I mean, you'd like to have other people, you'd like to have them in a situation where you've trained other people that can do that. Or, you know,
Yeah.
I think in terms of like if if I've had a doctor or a dentist for a number of years and they close their practice and they turn it over to somebody else, you know, on one sense I could say, okay, that's just another competent professional, but it depends on how my relationship is with them, and you know, like what's on this, what I think is on the line. You know, is this somebody this new person somebody that I trust or not? I mean, I'm just kind of thinking in context of like that the complexities of what's involved in handing things over.
And that's where you need time to address these things. Like this is where if you're looking at selling your practice, you might want to bring in an associate 1 or 2 or 3 years ahead of time and get your clients used to that associate.
Right.
And that's the person you sell your business to. It could be that could be an example of a transition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But it's not something you can do overnight with, like, say, okay, my business is for sale. I want to sell it and I'm off to the Bermudas 1 week later.
Right. Right. It's like this flash cut kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So, is there like a one golden nugget that if that you would like to leave with people, if there was one thing that you'd like them to have in top of mind, what would that be?
The one thing is just to change your mindset about how you look at your bookkeeping. Don't think of it as an expense or a cost, just so you can determine how much you have to pay for taxes at the end of the year, but rather start looking at how you can use your books for your own purpose to actually make more money at your business. Like one question I sometimes ask some of my students is if you woke up this morning and you turn on the radio and you heard the government announce they're doing away with all taxes, income taxes, sales taxes, payroll taxes, how many of you would still do your accounting books? Unfortunately, I get a lot of businesses say, oh, I don't need to do them anymore.
Right.
That shouldn't be the attitude you should have. You
Yeah,
should still,
based on that whole comment about products and profitability and all that, all those related kind of things, paying yourself a salary, all of that, that's not related to the actual tax accounting work.
yeah, you need to know where your business is at so you can look for ways to continually improve your business. And by doing that, that's going to build the long-term value of your business so that when it comes time to retirement, you do have a real business you could sell and get a premium dollar for it.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, this is really cool. So I think people are going to want to know. There are people that are going to be interested in getting in touch with you and finding out more. So how can they reach you?
Well, probably a quick method is through email. My email is Brian, Brian, at brianludwig.com. That's BrianLudwig, just like the Beethoven, Ludwig van Beethoven,
Perfect.
.com.
Uh-huh.
Or
Excellent.
if you're into drums, just like the drums, the Ludwig drums.
I hadn't, I hadn't thought about those. Yeah, you're right. Simple enough. I understand that you have something that you you have a gift that you could provide to folks here, something helpful.
Yes, I have a gift of like a list of key drivers you could look at within your business. Like there's lots of numbers you could look at, but these are probably the more key ones that you should be focusing on.
Mm-hmm.
And the checklist can be obtained from my website, CFO Fundamentals. That's CFOFUNDAMENTALS.com/checklist.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, that'd be helpful. At least you can start to look and see whether you're on track or off track with some of the essential things that you need to that would be really valuable to have in place.
Yeah, and that's where you don't have to be an expert at numbers. You just have to have a good understanding of what to look at. You can always get someone to prepare the numbers for you, but this is where you also need to make sure they're preparing the numbers right in the first place. So they are giving you the good information that you need to make your decisions.
Yeah. So I guess couched in that, it's not just preparing the numbers in order to submit taxes, but as they're preparing the numbers and doing that work anyway, keep in mind to provide you, I'll call it that actionable information about marketing and profitability and things so you can make better business decisions for yourself.
Yeah, you have to think about it as you're part of a team. There's you as the business owner that's using this information, and then you have your other supporting people who help provide you with that information.
Yeah.
And you
and
have to
ultimately
kind
the
of
buck
relay
stops
that,
with you. It's your business.
because if you just hire a bookkeeper and tell them I want to do my books,
Yeah.
odds are they're going to look at it from a viewpoint just to calculate your taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to start using it for making marketing decisions, that's where you need to look at your books and say, okay, I've got total sales, but maybe I should be breaking this down into 10 different categories.
Yeah.
It's not that much extra work entering that information. You just have to know what categories you want to keep track of.
Yeah.
And then whenever you want to, you can actually find out what your sales are by category.
Right.
And that'll start giving you a better idea. Okay, what's exactly bringing in the money for this business?
Yeah. Yeah. So this is awesome, Brian. So helpful. I really appreciate it. It's been a super interesting conversation, and I really appreciate the insight you brought to it. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. I enjoyed being here.
Yes, we've enjoyed having you. So thank you again. Take care.
Okay, have a good day.
Okay, bye now.